And we are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 34 of season 3, y'all know the deal. I got to talk to you about a few quick things. First off, if you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you happen to like our podcast, there's an arrow button right below the video. That arrow button is a share button where you can share us to Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all the things. So if you want to spread word about your favorite Detroit Pistons podcast, Revved Up 906, make sure to hit that arrow button. We'd greatly appreciate it. And if you happen to be tuning into today's episode but aren't so much into long form content, make sure to follow us on Instagram. There's a link in the description below this video where you can click that link and follow us on Instagram so you can see debate topics, hot takes, daily clips, episode reminders, these types of things. So make sure to do that if you haven't yet. Let's get into today's episode number 34 of season 3, because we have a good one for you guys today. A lot to talk about, a lot happening in the Pistons world. We're going to talk from topics like a Jaden Ivey quote from his first couple of weeks with the Chicago Bulls. Then we're going to talk about Cade and passing stats and representing Team USA and his great game at Madison Square Garden versus the New York Knicks. Getting the nit and grit details of his passing ability as well. We're also going to talk about, funny enough, a Phil Jackson 40-20 rule and what he talked about when he was head coach for major NBA franchises and as a player, successful player as well. So we're going to talk about the 40-20 rule and how it applies to the Detroit Pistons. And then, of course, we're going to have our player shout out of the weeks because the Pistons are playing so well and we want to make sure we're shouting out the players that are playing at their very best. All right, we're going to start today's episode with talking about Jaden Ivey because Ryan, previous to Jaden Ivey getting dealt away from the Detroit Pistons to the Chicago Bulls, we were watching Pistons games, watching him in interviews, and he wasn't passing the eye test of mentally in the game or maybe even physically not being able to do what Jaden Ivey once did. And at that time, it was just speculation, just thoughts, us putting it out there for the fans to digest and take it as they will. But then a couple of weeks later, we get a quote from Jaden Ivey in a press conference scrum after one of the Bulls games, and he says, quote, "I'm not the same player I used to be. I'm not the JI I used to be. The old JI is dead." And he kind of, and after that goes into a grateful mindset, talking about Jesus, how he's a new person in Christ because of him, being baptized, taking on this new walk of Christian life. But also, he was pointing out how physically he doesn't feel the same as he did, during his times at Purdue and with the Pistons as a rim rusher, as a guy that got out in transition. And it sucks because we did kind of call this in our own way. We saw it coming, but when he confirms it, it hurts that much more. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Jaden Ivey? Because this sucks.
Yeah, so you would look back at last year and the type of player he was finally starting to become. You don't have Monty Williams anymore. You have a coach that is actually trusting and believing in you. You have Cade, who's you're finally actually getting a chance to play with. Like you're
Mhm.
finally getting a chance to work with all your teammates that you really didn't get the chance to work with prior due to
Right.
injuries. And he had a like phenomenal first 20 games of the season before Orlando happens, in which he goes down with the injury. And before that injury took place, we're sitting there going like, okay, we might actually have a legit team with Ivy and co finally starting to get to play together and actually gel together because we hadn't seen Cade and Ivy on the floor at the same time prior because of Cade's injuries. Um, and so you look at that dynamic and you look at the bigger picture and we're going like, holy crap, we're actually far better than what we thought we were going to be. And then you have the season that we had in the
Mhm.
timing of the injury and just he was playing at such a high level in that first stretch of games that he goes down with honestly probably one of the worst injuries you could probably go down with, just
Right.
because it is a broken fibia. Like it's not just a sprain or a partial tear or whatever. If it was an ACL, I'd have been like, "Ooh, that's devastating." But it's not like, oh my goodness. Whenever you go down with a break, it's even more like devastating and traumatic for a player. And so he goes down with the break, and the way in which it happened, it was like a play that shouldn't even have taken place. But you have Cole Anthony, I think it was Cole Anthony, who was charging at him. Like, yeah, of course, something like that is going to happen when you're charging at the player, not even the ball. But I think the way that his injury went down, fast forward to the season that the team ended up having, I think when he went down initially, he was like, like this sucks. But then to see what ended up happening for the rest of the season and the fact that the team kind of went off without him and then it almost solidified the fact that they don't need him, I think that
Hmm.
hurt him even more. And so then his process of trying to come back is like, okay, if I do come back, what is my role even going to look like? Am I going to be getting key minutes? Am I going to be the same player that they're expecting me to be? Like, what is this? What is it going to look like? And then fast forward to the start of this season, you have a couple of fresh faces in, and I think Jaden Ivey might have been a little intimidated by the moves that Trajan Langdon made because first off, you go and let Tim Hardaway Jr. go, you let Malik Beasley go, and you're sitting there going like, oh, wait a minute, like I might actually have a chance to solidify myself once again. Like I think those
Yeah.
moves are going to help me. But then you see Duncan Robinson sign, and then Karis LeVert sign, and then you're sitting there going like, wait a minute, he just signed two players that are obviously they're not the same as Jaden Ivey in the overall player, but you just signed two guards
Hmm.
and you already had Ivy. You go down with the injury. You clear out those space of Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. and you add in two other guards. And so he's probably sitting there going like, "Wait a minute, I'm so confused right now. You let them walk, but you arguably brought in two better players. So what is my role going to look like?" And then we all know what happened at the end of last season, where Jaden Ivey was actually cleared to play, but he didn't end up suiting up at all, even though it was being reported that he was going to come back and play too. So I think there was just that injury takes place, the timing of his rehab and everything towards the end of the season there, it probably wasn't exactly where he should have been, but they're like, he could play if he really had to. He could, but I wouldn't recommend pushing it. And so it probably had something like that happen. And then you go back into this season and we start off as hot as we did. And of course, we're going to just slowly increase his minutes here and there. But I think by the end of it, obviously, JB and everyone in training camp saw that, okay, it's not the same Jaden Ivey that we're used to. Like we don't know exactly if he's ready to go mentally, physically, whatever. Physically, technically, the doctors are saying he's cleared, but mentally, it's a different ball game. And I think we both saw it, and I think everyone saw it that mentally he's not ready, but physically he's there. It's just he looks a little clunky right now because he bulked up rather than putting the weight downstairs. And I would have put the weight on his leg versus the weight on his upper body because now he's just looking like Desmond Bain out there with the little T-Rex arms shooting the ball. I'm like, I don't know about that one, but I think the way everything played out kind of was lining up to be pushing Jaden Ivey out the door. Because if not at the deadline, which it did happen, I was thinking maybe in the offseason that something would happen. Because based off of what I saw from that first couple games from him, it wasn't the same Ivy. Not only was it not the same Ivy, but he just doesn't look like he's there mentally. And whenever the player is not there mentally, it's almost like why would you even want to fill that roster spot with him when you have an opportunity in Dennis Jenkins who's taken the reins pretty much from Ivy and has just run away with it. Like I'd rather give opportunities to those kind of players than a guy who's checked out. And I think Ivy's checked out. I think he needed a new opportunity. And hopefully it works out with Chicago, but it's not looking like it's starting to work out very well.
Well, and it's just interesting that his first couple weeks with the Bulls to have a quote like that. It doesn't put much space for positive affirmation. He seems like he is in the dumps as far as on the court. Off the court, maybe mentally, he's right, but you know, he has to figure it on the court to keep cashing those paychecks. So we'll obviously want to see how things progress with Jay Ivey and the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, we probably won't talk about him much after this unless he makes for some reason moves in the Pistons media for some reason quotes coming out about the Pistons, these types of things. But we'll obviously wish the best for Jay Ivey and hope he figures it out because I know a lot of Pistons fans really enjoyed J.I.'s time with the Pistons. All right, so now we're going to take a couple minutes talking about Cade Cunningham. Now, for being a Pistons podcast, I feel like we don't talk about Cade Cunningham like a whole lot just because, there are a great cast of characters around him, fun guys to talk about. Um, but I want to take some time talk about the impressive stats that Cade has going on right now because if we don't talk about it, it goes unseen. And when you have a great player like Cade Cunningham, you want to shine a light on him because not every organization has a player like Cade Cunningham. First, I want to talk about the basic stats that and the where he lines up amongst the entire NBA. And then after that, we'll talk about his performance against the New York Knicks at MSG. So Cade Cunningham right now is first in secondary assists. They called it hockey assists. Basically, if he's around the 3-point line, he makes the pass, and then say Ron Holland makes the next pass, and Kevin Herter knocks down the 3-point shot. These types of things. So, passing the ball, swinging the ball, he is first in hockey assists. He's first in total assists with at the time of this recording right around 452. He's first in potential assists, 827, swinging the ball, but maybe the player takes too many dribbles, or usually it's take too many dribbles and just doesn't shoot it or misses it. He's second in assists per game with 9.6 at the time of the recording. And for a 6'6", I was just talking with my dad about this the other day. I think he's 6'8". I've seen him in person. He's super tall. For a guy that has the size he does to be a passer and how effectively he does it, it's so impressive. He's also first in assists per minute played this season, and then first in points created by assists overall, which is 1,167 points created. 15.4% of Cade's passes become assists. So he's not just a great scorer like the highlights you're going to see at NBA.com and on their Instagram and House of Highlights, these types of things. No, he also does the little things that turn all-stars into superstars and playoff teams into championship teams. And Cade is playing that kind of basketball right now, and we have to be the blowhorn for that. Ryan, what are your thoughts as a whole when looking at Cade Cunningham's season so far? Because he said himself he thinks he should be MVP.
Oh, I 100% without a shadow of doubt think he's the MVP.
Yeah.
And which, if he were to go on to win MVP this year, that would be the first time since the media began voting that a Pistons player would win MVP. The highest finish was Grant Hill, which he finished third behind
Hmm.
Karl Malone and Michael Jordan. And then you had Isaiah Thomas previous to that, who finished fifth in voting. So
Right.
that would be spectacular if he's the one to do it. Which out for our current roster situation, he's realistically the only one that would do it. Outside of him, I would say Jalen Duren, but I love Duren, but I don't think he's going to get to the same level that Cade Cunningham is at because it's a whole monster of a level. The fact that you're walking into MSG and dropping 40 points on the Knicks, in which that game everyone counted the Pistons out because you were without Jalen Duren, you were without Isaiah Stewart, your two key bigs. And then you have the Knicks who have Karl Anthony Towns and they have Mitchell Robinson and they have Jeremy Sohan, who they just added in to guard guys like Cade, and yet Cade goes off for 40 points and has 13 assists and 8 rebounds. Like the fact that he did that the way he did that, it wasn't like a whoa, that's a monster game. It was like a he's just slowly chipped all the way up. It was a very quiet 40. But in the times that the Pistons needed a shot or they needed a defensive stop, he was the guy to step up and do it. And he always did it at clutch times and clutch situations. Like the step back cross on Sohan, like that was just dirty. And then the fact
Oh
that he
yeah,
crossed
nasty.
3 different guys and drove to the rim and dunked it. And not only did he dunked it left-handed, which is actually very hard to do, I might add. Like righty, everybody's almost a right-handed player by now. So the fact that you're dunking it with your left hand is crazy. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But no, like it didn't seem to matter what the Knicks threw at him. He just outperformed them. And the common feedback from the Knicks versus Cade versus Pistons series so far is that the Knicks haven't been healthy. Well, last 2 times in particular that the Pistons and Knicks have played, we were without Jalen Duren in both of those games. We were
Yep.
also without Stu in both of those games. And yet, Cade Cunningham lights you up 2 consecutive times, at LCA, one at MSG. The difference being MSG is a whole nother monster because it's, in my opinion, and this is just as a basketball fan in general, this means nothing love related towards the Knicks, but
Yeah.
MSG is probably without a shadow of doubt the most iconic
Oh yeah.
basketball venue of all of maybe all of sports. I think that's a little bold, but specifically basketball, NBA wise, it is the most iconic venue in the NBA right now to play in because just the history behind it is just incredible. And the different players that have played there and the different MVP players that have played there and lit it up. Like the Knicks have a villain that they have created in Cade. And Cade is just playing out of his mind right now. It doesn't seem to matter who he's playing up against matchup wise or team wise. He's going to go out there and do his thing. Like he doesn't have to go off for 40 points and have a good game. He could give you an 18-point scoring outing, but give you 10 assists and 9 rebounds. And you're sitting there going like, that was a great game. That was a great game. Like he doesn't have
Hmm.
to go out and do what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does or Nikola Jokic in just pure domination of going out there and dropping 30 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists. Like that doesn't need to be a Cade game. He can go out there and do whatever he wants. And majority of the time, it's a good game still. Like he's not the, I'm going to just go stat focused heavy. I'm going to go and just play my game and do my thing. Like when you get to the level that Cade is at right now, and you have other players like Anthony Edwards recognizing him post All Star break, going, okay, Cade just dropped 40 at MSG. I got to go drop 40. Like when you get to that level of a player, that just, in my opinion, you have to be the MVP at that point because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Nikola Jokic or whatever, they had how many 30-point plus games this year so far? And Anthony Edwards isn't going after a game and dominating, going like, oh, I had to match those guys. No, he recognizes that Cade is good, especially playing with him in the All Star game. Like I think all those guys actually finally recognized, okay, Cade is legit. Like they hear and watch these certain things whenever they match up from time to time over the years. But when you actually get a chance to play with a guy, even if it is an all-star game, you actually get to see the mechanics behind their game, what their mindset is on and
Hmm.
off the court, just the little things that you don't get to see on a regular day-to-day basis on what makes a player great or not. They finally got to see, and then now post all-star game, like Cade drops 40 at MSG, and majority of the time coming out of all-star break, you're dead. Like you don't really have a lot of energy. You're just kind of slow getting back into the rhythm. No, Cade was ready to go. He just dropped 40 just like that. So I think he is by far the MVP candidate. I placed a bet on it most recently on that he was going to win the
Oh,
MVP.
nice.
I don't think I'm going to lose on it. I didn't put that much money into it, just $20. But the point is, I think he is the MVP, and I don't think it's without question. The only way he doesn't win MVP is the media being the media, and the fact that historically speaking, the media hates on any Detroit team. So from that standpoint, it's probably not going to happen, but I'm wanting it to not happen in my head so that when it does happen, I can brag about it.
Well, and here's the thing, a big part of the MVP conversation, like you said, is the media voting on these types of awards. Um, this week in particular, at the time of the recording, we have the San Antonio Spurs tonight, and later on this week, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Those are two big time games where if Cade shows up in a big way, that's when the media heads start to turn and make him almost undeniable to win MVP. We've seen big names in the sports media world give him major shout out, Stephen A. Smith, etc. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do against these top Western Conference teams. And the reason I think the Pistons have such a great chance at contending for a championship is because of the scenario the Eastern Conference is in right now. The Boston Celtics don't have Jason Tatum, the Indiana Pacers at the bottom of the East because of the absence of Tyrese Halliburton. There's a couple other examples of this as well. Um, and a reason I wanted to bring up the assist stats earlier is because it speaks to two major issues and setbacks Cade had early on in his career when he started with the Detroit Pistons. The two things he struggled with was defense and assists, and or turnovers rather, not assists. So defense, he wasn't necessarily lackadaisical, but maybe I at times challenged his athletic ability at those times of not being able to keep up defensively, slow feet, these types of things. But then he gets into the All-Star game and has 4 blocks over those couple games and consistently has blocked some big time names so far this season. So he's turned that around. And then the assist stats mean so much because when he was getting 7, 8 assists when we were doing revved up recaps a couple years back, it was always, oh, Cade gave us 25 again, but he's got almost double digit turnovers. It's like, well, this isn't going to cut it. And now he's turned what was a weakness for him into a strength and now is one of the top dogs as far as passing goes in today's NBA. So it teaches us a lot looking at those assists because he's progressed so much. And I give a lot of credit to Jarrett Jack, who seems to be Cade Cunningham's uh, one-on-one coach for the most part. JB Bickerstaff obviously looking at the team as a whole, addressing defensive strategies, offensive strategies. But then when you go to Pistons games, you see Jarrett Jack working one-on-one with Cade, one-on-one in practice, going through drills together. And Jarrett Jack was a perennial great player in the NBA for many, many years. So I credit Jarrett Jack because as soon as he came into the building, it seemed like Cade switched just his play style just got that much better. So I'd like to learn more about Jarrett Jack and Cade Cunningham's relationship because we do see them during games chatting it up sometimes, talking about things that Jack is seeing on the court and how Cade can make those adjustments. So I would love to learn more about this relationship. I wish somebody asked Cade about that impact that Jarrett has made on him. Ryan, you mentioned the MSG game with Cade Cunningham against the New York Knicks. Cunningham was the first player since LeBron in 2009 to record 14 plus points, 10 plus assists at MSG. That was another big time game that sports media and fans alike were really looking forward to see these teams go at it because they've had such great matchups in the last couple of years. And that's just another example of Cade stepping up in national moments, big time moments, and really providing a spark that the Detroit Pistons need. Ryan, recently, Cade Cunningham went to the media during All-Star break weekend and talked about representing Team USA for basketball. Shout out Team USA men's hockey winning gold this last weekend on Sunday. That's why I'm repping Red Wings. Dylan Larkin representing for the Red Wings in Milan. And with this topic, everyone's kind of talking about the Olympics and everything alike. And Cade went to the media and said, "I want to be on the Olympic team coming up. I think I'm the best American player on who the best American player is in the NBA. That's via GQ Sports. Now, all these Cade takes, hot takes, don't seem that hot anymore because even he has said, I want to be MVP. I think I'm the best American player. He's obviously feeling himself as of late. You think he's got a good case to be the best American player? I sure think so. What are your thoughts?
I'm torn because you have guys like Anthony Edwards who
Oh, yeah.
are also great. But I mean, if you're looking at the MVP conversation right now, you look at I would say the top three candidates, it's Cade, Nikola Jokic, and SGA. And of those three, who's American? And that's Cade. The top three doesn't have Anthony Edwards in it, even though you could make a case, honestly. But the top, honestly, the top players in the whole entirety of the NBA right now aren't sniffing Cade as far as stats right now. Yes, Anthony Edwards is a stud. I love watching him. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the league. Um, but if we're looking at the game as a whole, Cade is doing stuff similar to like a Magic Johnson type player than anything. And whenever you can get a guy, I read one of the comments on that post. It was something along the lines of Cade is not an all around player. He doesn't shoot at a high clip. I'm like, wait a minute. He is an all around player. He doesn't have to shoot at a very high clip. So, and the person put 60%. And I'm sitting there going like, you realize 60% from three would be absurd, right? Like that is so hard to do.
Hmm.
So I just want to call BS on that one. But no, I think he is definitely deserving of being on the Olympic team. And honestly, he probably is the best American player right now. If we're going best American player within the last 5 years, no, I don't think so. But best American player right now, I don't think is that bold. So yes, I think he should be on the Olympic team. I think he's very deserving of it. The fact that he's back-to-back All-Star and being recognized in the MVP conversation right now, I think that's a shoo-in for being on the Olympic team. If you're not in this conversation right now and you're not back-to-back on the All-Star team and not having the season that you're having right now, I think yeah, okay, that makes sense that he's not in there. But he has been on the select team the last 2, 3 years, him and Duran, because they've brought him in, those guys in particular, to go up against because they deem themselves to be some of the best in the NBA. So if and Grant Hill runs the show. So if Grant Hill is saying Cade Cunningham is legit, then Cade Cunningham is legit. And former Piston, I mean, former Piston, current Piston. It just makes sense. So, yes, I would say he is a shoe in for the Olympic team. I think he's definitely deserving. And honestly, he probably is the best American player right now.
All right, so we talked about Cade. We had a little bit of a glaze fest for a little bit. Make sure to comment below what your thoughts are on Cade Cunningham's current play. We're big Cade fans. I'm sure you guys are as well. So it's fun to take time, look at the nitty and gritty stats of what's going on with his play right now. It gives a little bit more insight to what's behind the basketball. When talking about the Pistons as a whole now and possibly being a championship contender now that they are still at the top dog in the Eastern Conference in the power rankings, they're still flipping between 1 and 2 with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was on social media the other day reading an article and I came across the Phil Jackson rule, the 40-20 rule. And you're wondering, Hudson, what does Phil Jackson have to do with the Detroit Pistons? Well, not much, but it might prove that the Pistons are, in fact, a true contender. Phil Jackson, who won 11 NBA titles, nine as a head coach and two as a player, coined the 40-20 rule, which states that if you are a true title contender, you need to hit 40 wins before 20 losses. Well, only two teams have done that this season, the Pistons and the Oklahoma City Thunder. 91% of NBA champions since 1980 have won 40 games before their 20th loss. The Detroit Pistons are currently 40-13 per DraftKings. Obviously, they're trying to do this to get people to bet on that future, the Pistons making the NBA Finals. I like looking at stats like this because, yes, it is, you're just contemplating, looking at scenarios, but also how we know things will go is based on past stats, and things like this is hard to ignore. We got 2 minutes left on Zoom. Ryan, what are some of your thoughts on the Pistons being a championship contender? And I think we're going to have a good eye test soon against the Spurs and Thunder.
I think they are definitely championship contenders. When you look at the East, the way it's shaping out to be right now, I think the only real threat to the Pistons is the Celtics. Outside of that, I mean, who is there really? The
Hmm.
Knicks, any normal fan would throw out there, but we own them right now, so I don't see that being an issue. And then the 76ers, and it's the 76ers. The Raptors are actually decent, but I don't think the Raptors are good enough either. They're definitely going to make the playoffs, but they shouldn't be making the playoffs. That's the sad part of the East right now. So yes, I would say that the Pistons have a pretty wide open path to the finals. The Cavs might scare us a little bit if we run into them with the newly acquired James Harden. But I personally think a two guard combo at the 1 and 2 never works. And it's been tested numerous times throughout the last 5 years, and it just doesn't work. So I don't think they're a real threat to us. So yeah, I would think I would like to say that we have a real chance at the finals this year.
Make sure to comment below if you think the Pistons are legit contenders. We would love to know what you guys have to say. That will do it for episode number 34 of season 3. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.